Welcome to the next lecture. In today's lecture, I would like to wind up the discussion of klystron, but since its derivation has been a little bit long, several lectures, I will provide overall, you can say, revision of klystron without going into details. Details can be found in the videos in previous lectures. So here is the, you can say, two cavity klystron amplifier. You have a DC source V0 here, which will excite the cathode, and after the cathode gets heated up, electrons leave the cathode and they attain constant velocity, uniform velocity V0, and then they approach buncher cavity grid. Buncher cavity is excited with the RF input, of course, at microwave frequencies, which you want to amplify, and this oscillating field inside the buncher cavity will, since it has three phases, you can say, zero power, then maximum, and then retarding. So electrons will form bunches, and the bunched electrons, they definitely, when they will move, then the charge per unit time constitutes the current. That current approaches the catcher cavity, which is another cavity. So what happens is, in the catcher cavity, the kinetic energy of these electrons is converted into potential energy, which creates a field inside the catcher cavity, and hence we get the RF output, whose amplitude will be higher than the RF input, and the retarded electrons are collected here at the collector. This is the overall picture of klystron, and the first thing that happens is what we call as velocity modulation. So you have some important terminologies. You have a time period T1, which is the time when electron leaves this buncher gap, and time T0, which is the time an electron enters the buncher gap, and this is equal to the d, which is the distance or the length of this buncher gap, divided by the velocity. Okay, and we define this as tau. Corresponding to this transit time in the buncher gap, we define the transit gap angle, which is omega tau. Okay, and we also derive the average voltage, or to be more specific, average microwave voltage in buncher gap, by averaging it over, and finally we get this expression. So this average voltage in the buncher gap is expressed as V1 beta I sine of omega t naught plus theta g by 2, and this beta I, after averaging out, it was defined to be as sinc function of theta g by 2. Okay, this is the one thing we got, and this is called beam coupling coefficient. Beam coupling coefficient. Okay, then we derived the velocity modulation equation after using some approximations, and that we got as v of, if it is a function of t1, v of t1 in terms of t naught first, that is v0 1 plus beta I v1 by v0. v1 is the amplitude of oscillations, RF input oscillations. Okay, जिसको हमें amplify करना है. v0 is the DC input, right? So you can compare it with the usual amplifier. Suppose you want to amplify an AC signal, usual amplifier, the v1 is the amplitude of AC signal, v0 is the biasing DC voltage. Okay, so omega t naught plus theta g by 2. Okay, you can express this in terms of v1 also. Then we defined the bunching process, how the bunches are formed, and we found a very important relationship there. Suppose bunch is formed at a distance delta L from the center of this buncher gap. Then using simple relationships and some approximation, we got this buncher gap is depending on the velocity, it depends upon the DC input, it depends upon this omega, which is the angular frequency of oscillating signal, this beam coupling coefficient, and B1. Okay, so this is the another thing we got. This is this was the discussion at the buncher gap. Now after buncher gap, you can see we have the drift space. Now the electrons have to travel this drift space to reach to the catcher cavity. Now with respect to drift space, there are two important time parameters. One is T1, the moment an electron leaves the this buncher gap, right, and it starts traveling into the drift space, and the time T2 is the moment when electron enters into the catcher cavity. Okay, so that we define as T2 minus T1. Okay, and this is also equal to the length distance between buncher and catcher cavity divided by the velocity, which is given by the velocity modulation equation. Okay, and after approximation using Taylor series approximation, this can be written as, okay, then we defined again some important terms corresponding to the time. So if you see L by V naught, okay, so L by V naught is the time if electron moves with constant velocity V naught, how much time it will take to travel from buncher gap to the catcher gap. This is the time. And what is the corresponding angle? This omega L by V naught, that we define as theta naught. This also can be equated with the number of electron transit cycles. Definitely when electron will will travel, it will, if in terms of angular frequency it covers some number of cycles. If that is n, then you can also write as 2 pi n. Okay, and we define one more quantity, which is beta I V1 divided by V naught times theta naught. This we wrote as x. Okay, and then we could write this angle corresponding to the time between buncher gap and cavity gap, omega t, as theta naught minus x sine of omega t1 minus theta g by 2. Okay, and this x, which is very important parameter, this is called bunching parameter of cholesterol. Bunching parameter. Okay, also by conservation of energy, we have that when corresponding to the current I naught in the catcher gap, sorry, buncher gap, during time dt naught, the same charge will be present in catcher cavity when the current there is I2 during time differential time dt2. Okay, and finally we, using all these equations, we got the current in catcher cavity, arriving at the catcher cavity because of electrons there, as function of T2 time, that is the time when it enters the catcher gap, is given by I naught divided by 1 minus x cos omega T2 minus theta naught minus theta g, which is clearly periodic. So it can be expressed as Fourier series. So I2 can be written as some Fourier constant A0 plus n is equal to 1 to infinity, right? And you know how to compute these constants. They are these integrals, a usual Fourier transform, Fourier series concepts. Similarly for Bn, and then finally what we found is this was expressed as in terms of Bessel function. And after using the Bessel function, which details are given in the other videos, An will come out to be 2I naught Jn of nx cos of n theta g plus n theta naught, and Bn as 2I naught Jn of nx sine of n theta g plus n theta naught. And hence the current I2 can be expressed as I naught plus summation n is equal to 1 to infinity 2I naught Jn of nx cos n omega of t2 minus tau minus t naught. All terms have been defined. And fundamental component which has the significant amplitude is 2 times I naught J1 of x. Okay. And then using the plot or numerical values of Bessel functions, this fundamental component approaches maximum value when x is equal to 1.841, and then using this equation, delta L equation, we will get that the optimum length is 3.682 v naught velocity voltage v naught divided by omega beta I v1. Till this much we have done already. Now I will show today what is the output power and how can we define the efficiency and some gain factors for this clustron. Now how will the amplification happen actually? See, first of all, we discussed in previous lectures that the bunching should happen with a very high degree. Okay, there should be high degree of bunching, and that the best place or the best location where that should happen is somewhere actually midpoint of this catcher cavity, and the gap voltage of this catcher cavity, this dimensions of this gap should be such that the phase of this gap voltage should be in such a way that it should retard, it should slow down the electrons. Okay, see, when you see the cavities, the frequency of cavity, okay, the oscillations of cavity, they all depend upon the dimensions. So we can design the cavity, especially the gap here, the cavity gap, in such a way that at the midpoint the electrons are facing the retardation. Okay, the field is developed such that the electrons are facing retardation. What will happen when electrons will be retarded? Their kinetic energy will be converted into potential energy, which will which will increase the amplitude of oscillations inside the catcher cavity, because total energy remains the same. So those electrons slow down, and then these electrons which leave this catcher cavity, they are now slowed down and collected at the collector. That is the main logic here, to have the catcher cavity and RF output. Because of the bunching process, the electrons have high velocity because of the two things, velocity modulation and bunching process. And so when electrons are moving quite fast and they are retarded, so what will happen to their kinetic energy? That will be transformed into potential energy stored in the catcher cavity in form of the oscillations, which is taken as the RF output at the catcher cavity, which will be amplified version of RF input. Now what will be the induced current in the catcher cavity? First of all, the induced current in the catcher cavity, that will be proportional to the amplitude of input voltage, right? Because it is input voltage, which is here at the RF input. It is input voltage whose amplitude as well as whose phase decides how stronger the bunching happens in the electrons, and this degree of bunching in return decides what should be the current in the catcher cavity. So the induced current in catcher cavity will be proportional to V1. I2 will be proportional to V1. Okay, let me say I2 induced, and this is I2 induced. So it will be in return proportional to then I2, because I2 is the current, also called beam current. Okay, which is generated because of the current modulation process which we have explained here. This is called beam current. This will induce the current in the walls of catcher cavity, which is called I2 induced. So I2 induced will be equal to some constant times I2. Okay, now this, if we write only fundamental component, so if I write only fundamental component, then I will write beta naught twice I naught J1 of x cos omega T2 minus tau minus T naught. See what I have done? I have here taken only n is equal to 1. So let me tell you one more fact about the Bessel function. I will demonstrate this in Octave. So in Octave, the Bessel function of type 1 can be defined using the function Bessel J. Okay, so I will first of all define a vector x from 0 to 10, and then I will define y to be, or I can directly then plot x and Bessel J of x, and n is equal to 1. Okay, so here is the plot. Oh, we have to give 1 comma x. So first n goes into the argument. Let me write it here, 1 and x. Okay, yeah, so here is the plot. Now let me hold on, and now let me give 2. See, this red color is now n is equal to 2. You can see the amplitude has decreased, right? And if I directly give now suppose 10, you see this is the 10. I will expand it, this one. So this is n is equal to 1, then n is equal to 2, 3 will come further down, and n is equal to 10. You see its amplitude is very less. So for Bessel function, the first component is a dominant one. That is what we call as fundamental component. As n increases, the magnitude of the Bessel coefficients, they decrease and they become insignificant. So no need to take all the infinite sum, at most second term, but let's concentrate on the first order approximation. We take the first fundamental component. That is what we have done here. We have written the induced current in the catcher cavity as proportional to the fundamental component of the beam current. Okay, and this beta, let me call it beta naught, sorry, this is called the beam coupling coefficient of catcher cavity. It you see, if beta naught is 1, it means there is the best coupling. The induced current is exactly same as beam current, but it will be usually less than 1. So which means coupling, if which is very small, then coupling is weak. And this is analogous to beta I, the coupling factor for Buncher gap. And if both cavities are same, Buncher cavity is same and your catcher cavity is same, then they will be equal. Okay, so this is the time variation of induced current. What is it? Is magnitude, maximum magnitude, that is this. So the magnitude of fundamental component of current induced in the catcher cavity will be beta naught I2, that is beta naught 2 times I naught J1 of x. Okay, so I am not, so you can say that average it over this cos, we are averaging it over the time, and this is the magnitude of induced current. Now there are impedances attributed to the cavities. Okay, so if we equivalently we draw some equivalent circuit of it, what we can show is equivalently, suppose this is the current beta naught I2. Okay, then corresponding to the wall of catcher cavity there will be some equivalent resistance. See, this is a model, this is not what actually happens. So but there are, there are impedance attributed. We have defined impedance for a waveguide, if you remember, right? Input impedance, output impedance, even for a free space there is that impedance. So here we depict that impedance in terms of these resistors. Okay, so this is I will call it RSHO, which is actually the equivalent resistance of catcher cavity wall. And then there will be another equivalent component, that's RB, which is the beam loading resistance, which will be corresponding to the current beam which is formed because of the current modulation. And then we have the load, that is actually the RF output, that will be modeled as the equivalent RL row resistance. Or we can just, if we want to make it very simple, we just assume there is some shunt resistance and current beta naught I2 flows through it, and a potential V2 is developed across this shunt resistance. Then what will be the output power delivered to the catcher cavity? So that will be beta naught I2 current square the shunt resistance divided by 2. Okay, or you can also write as that current times voltage divided by 2. So this V2 is just like we have V1 as the component of magnitude of the input RF voltage. V2 is the fundamental component of catcher gap voltage. Okay, and then we define the efficiency of cluster as output power divided by input power. Okay, which will be beta naught I2 V2 divided by 2 I naught V naught. As an example, we take perfect couplings. What will happen in perfect coupling? Beta naught will be equal to 1. That is perfect coupling. So your efficiency, let me call it eta, will be now I2 V2 divided by twice I naught V naught. Then further, the maximum beam current will have the value. Okay, I again use Octave to show you what that value will be. See, let me first plot again. I will repeat it. So if I don't know whether plots are there, yeah, so I will plot again. Plot x, and I will, n is 1. Okay, so you see this maximum value occurs here at this point. It is 1.8, almost 1.841. Okay, to get more insight, let me do one thing. I will write here a comma b is equal to max of Bessel J 1 comma x. Now the maximum value of occurs at the maximum value taken is 0.5816 by the Bessel function. And why does it occur? It occurs at the 185th position of x. So x of 185, this is 1.84. So this is a numerical demonstration of what we did last time, that the Bessel function attains its maximum value at 1.84. What is that maximum value? 0.5816. Now if I want to compute the maximum efficiency, you see the current is defined. So it is beta naught 2 I naught times J1 of x. So we will take the maximum value of J1 of x. What is that? 0.582. Okay, so this eta will be then, now I naught I2 is equal to 2I naught times J1. Now I take the maximum value 0.582. Okay, and in that case this voltage V2 will be equal to V0 in the perfect coupling case, divided by twice V0 I0, and this efficiency comes about 0.58, which is 58%. Okay, but this is theoretical. Practically, so there are several losses which we haven't taken into account. Practically the efficiency is between 15 to 30%. It is not 58%. This is theoretical. Practically it is between 15 to 30%. And you know, you can see that klystron amplifier, if you look carefully, it can be better modeled in terms of transconductance parameter, because you have on the one and the induced volt current in the catcher cavity, I2 induced, and on the other hand you have the voltage amplitude V1 of the input RF side. So it is better to define this as the equivalent mutual conductance. I will call this as GM, magnitude of GM. We only take magnitude, and definitely this will be equal to what is induced current, fundamental component, 2 times beta naught I naught Bessel function J1 of x divided by V1. Now if you recall, when I defined the bunching parameter x as beta I, the coupling coefficient of buncher gap, divided by 2 V naught theta naught. So in terms of this, I can write V1 as 2 V naught divided by beta naught theta naught times x. And if we assume that both buncher cavity and catcher cavity they are identical, then we can substitute beta naught for the same. So then we can normalize with what? I naught divided by V naught. This we can call as G naught. What is this? This is DC beam conductance. DC beam conductance. So what I can do is divide this equivalent mutual transconductance of klystron amplifier divided by this DC conductance, which will be equal to twice beta naught I naught J1 of x divided by, now substituting this expression, so we get 2 times V naught x and here beta naught theta naught. So we can write it as beta naught. Oh, okay. So let me first, I am actually writing GM. I will divide it later on. So this is beta naught square, and this J. So this is J1 of x. Sorry, J1 of x theta naught, and then I naught divided by V naught, and divided by x. So this I naught by V naught is G naught. So we can write the normalized transconductance as beta naught square theta naught J1 of x by x. So if you plot in the book, it is given the plot. This normalized transconductance with x, so it will be something like this. Okay, it decreases with increase in x. And what will be the value at maximum output? So we know that maximum output occurs at x is equal to 1.841 for this Bessel function, and the value is 0.58. So at that point Gm by G naught will be something 0.316 beta naught square theta naught. Now finally we can define voltage gain of klystron amplifier. Voltage gain AV as And the magnitude of V2, the voltage developed in the catcher cavity, divided by the RF input voltage. And you know, V2 is the current beta 2 I2 induced times the shunt resistance divided by V1. And now this I2 is equal, so this is beta naught, sorry, not beta 2, this is beta naught. Then this I2 is equal to beta naught 2 I naught J1 of X divided by, and this V1, this is given by 2 V naught by beta naught theta naught of X. Oh sorry, beta naught is already there, so this beta naught is here. Okay, so 2 I naught J naught. Now this becomes beta naught square theta naught J1 of X divided by X. Then there is 1 over, I will write V naught by I naught like this, and RSH. So this V naught by I naught, since it is the DC component, both are DC components, we call it DC beam resistance. So it will become finally beta naught square theta naught J1 of X divided by R naught is divided by X R shunt. So this is your AV. Now if you compare it with this GM is twice beta naught I naught J1 of X divided by V1, and you substitute back VM value, so you will get very easy to see that AV is GM times RSH. So these are the relations related to voltage gain. Let's take some practical values. Suppose a two cavity klystron usually can have a voltage, DC voltage of 1000 volt. Okay, and the DC component resistance, which is can be 40 kilo ohm, and the current corresponding to the DC component is 25 milliampere, and let the frequency be 3 gigahertz, a typical lower side of microwave frequencies. And the distance in buncher cavity in that is 1 mm. Drift distance between buncher cavity and catcher cavity is 4 mm, and effective shunt resistance without excluding the beam loading is 30 kilo ohm. Okay, so let's say that we want to find the input gap voltage that will give maximum voltage at output. So input gap voltage. See, recall that the input voltage is given by the relationship is 2V naught divided by beta naught theta naught of X. Okay, now we want to find this input such that the current the voltage V2 is maximum. Now this V1 will be maximum for which J1 is maximum, right? And J1, that is the Bessel function of first order, it is maximum at X is equal to 1.841, right? And hence we got the first thing. For maximum output voltage, we have done this in derivations also. We will take X is equal to 1.841. Better to remember this result. And what is the maximum value? This also you should remember, 0.582. Okay, now this much has been done. We are given V naught. What will be the velocity of electron which it gains after leaving the cathode? You know that relation, but I will tell you simple that you can, if you don't want to memorize, you can write half mv naught square is EV naught. Okay, so then you will get V naught is So this value, either you can remember the mass of electron, or even that can be given in numericals, or it is 0.93 into 10 to the power 6 under root of V naught, and that is given to you. So it will be 1 point, V naught is given here 1000 volt, so 1.88 into 10 to the power 7 meter per second is the velocity. Why do we need? Because see, we need to compute theta naught and beta naught. Now for computing beta, recall that beta I, which is same here beta naught, is given by sinc of theta g by 2. So we need to compute theta g. So theta g is omega d by V naught. D is given, omega is given, we needed to find V naught, that we have found. So we can get first theta g. So this is 2 pi 3 gigahertz, that is 3 into 10 power 9, and D is also given to be 1 millimeter, so 10 power minus 3 divided by the velocity which we computed, 1.88 into 10 power 7. So just to compute it, you will get this is 1 radians. We have taken nice value, so that it becomes 1 radians. Then the beam coupling coefficient beta I, which is same for the two cavities, is sine of theta g by 2 divided by theta g by 2. So which will be sine of half divided by half, which will be some 0.952, which you can compute on calculator. Then we need theta naught, which is a transit angle, which is given by omega t naught, which is also given by omega L divided by V naught. Now omega is given 2 pi 3 gigahertz, and L is given to you 4 centimeter. V naught you have found 1.88 into 10 per 7. So this is 40 radians. Now you know you have all the values to find now V1 max, which is 2 V naught x divided by beta I theta naught, which will be 96.5 volts, supposed to be all the values here. Okay, now we can also find voltage gain. Voltage gain AV as, if you recall just now we derived, it is beta naught square theta naught J1 of x divided by R naught x RSH. It will be quite straightforward because everything is known. So you can just plug in all the values and compute it. It will come out to be 8.595. So this is the amplification voltage gain we are getting. So almost 8.58 times we are getting the voltage. You can also find efficiency. Just plug in the formulas. You will get it 46.2%. Very simple. Okay. So these were some practical values which will be given to us, and we see that at 3 gigahertz normal transistors may not work, and even today's clystrons can work even on 30 gigahertz and so on and so forth. Even at terahertz frequencies, people are working on the design of such clystrons right now. So with this, I think we have pretty much done basics of klystron. There are several types of klystrons: reflex klystron, and then there's a traveling wave too. Since time is less, but theory is almost little bit same, so you can easily follow that. Maybe one lecture if I gives in between, that will be just overview of different other tubes without going into mathematical details. But as per my plan goes, and I would like to show you transit time devices, and especially in that negative resistance devices like gun diode. That is very important. At least one device from that and one device from high electron mobility devices will try to cover. So this lecture was a little bit lengthy, but I have actually done a recap of the whole klystron theory so that there is no confusion. Okay, so we will possibly have a doubt session, or you can post your doubts personally to me if we don't get any time for a doubt session, because you have a lot of things, project and other things. So you can write to me for your doubts. Thank you.